So, the age-old question. Before 2023, the Ballon d'Or was regarded as a very prestigious award. It was given to the best player on the planet. 100% meritocracy. You get the idea. But after Lionel Messi was called up to pick the award for the 8th time in favor of players who probably deserved it a bit more, it lost all the credibility it had in the eyes of the footballing nation. This year's award was a major crisis, with clubs like Real Madrid electing not to even participate for alleged foul play on their candidates. Today we will, together, go through the last 20 years of the Ballon d'Or, analyzing the podium for each of them, and we will decide whether or not this award has lost a bit of its sparkle. But first, I want to answer all the people that are calling this one rigged. How can a competition based solely on individual votes from individual people be fair to any extent? Even if we do step past the media bias that exists for certain players, if you give the chance for members of each nation to vote, it's easy to see how some of these awards get decided. An Argentine journalist will always vote for Messi if he's in contention, and a Portuguese one will always go for Ronaldo. Does this mean that Ballon d'Or is rigged? No. Simply, the journalists are influenced by what they hear on social media and on the internet, and that's perfectly fine. However, one must keep in mind that not all people understand this game as much as necessary to have a say in these things. So yeah, there's my 2 cents on the whole situation. Let me know what you think down below. Before we get into the good stuff, I'll give a brief introduction of the award, then we'll get right into it. The Ballon d'Or is a football award that is under the flag of France football. Its conception arrived in 1956, when 2 sports journalists by the name of Gabriel Hanot and Jacques Ferrand had the idea to create this competition. At the beginning, the only players that were eligible for this prize were the European players at European clubs. This would explain why legends of the sport, like Diego Maradona and Pelé, failed to win it a couple of times. The first one to take the acclaimed prize home was Stanley Matthews, with future editions featuring players like Alfredo Di Stefano, Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law, George Best, and Gerd Müller. Everything changed in 1995, when it was announced that players from any nation were eligible for the trophy, but it was necessary for them to be playing in European clubs. George Weah became the first non-European player to win it. At the time, he was lighting up the Serie A with Milan. Ronaldo Nazario would become the youngest to win it in 1997, at only 21 years old. The criteria changed in 2006, with all professional players on the planet becoming eligible for the award. The votes used to be awarded exclusively to football journalists, but this has since changed. The same year, it was decided that media members from more than 180 nations were given the chance to vote, which would then be tightened once again in 2022, when only the top 100 nations were given the possibility. But what is the criteria behind the vote? It is based on 3 major factors: individual performance from the previous season, team success during the previous season, and player behavior during the season. Now, I must specify that since 2022, it no longer takes into consideration the calendar year, but only focuses on a full football season. This award has in the past been described as a popularity contest and has a natural bias towards more offensive players. The Ballon d'Or point system has changed quite a few times during the last couple of years, so I'll be changing it as I go. Also, I will use the updated 2022 criteria and only take into account the footballing season, plus eventual international tournaments. I can't do it for the calendar year, because the stats would be a huge mess to deal with. Please bear with me, I'm a uni student balancing life. I'll just use the modern system and consider the season. That is the only small exception I asked to be made. But yeah, enough yapping, let's get into it. 20 years ago, for the Ballon d'Or of the 2004 season, we would see Andriy Shevchenko come out on top. Sheva would dominate the standings 36 points in front of Deco, with Ronaldinho close behind, only 6 points separating the two of them. That year, the Ukrainian would score 29 goals, sprinkling in 4 assists. Deco would mirror this achievement, but mixing up the stats: 4 goals and 29 assists. Both players with 33 goal contributions. And funnily enough, while a bit more well divided, but Ronaldinho would see himself involved 33 times in goal as well, hitting the back of the net 22 times and assisting 11. So on the stats level, we find ourselves evenly matched. How about their successes with the teams? Milan with Sheva on their side would finish first in the Serie A and win the UEFA Super Cup, but would crash out in the quarterfinals of the CL and the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia. So only 2 trophies, albeit one very important in the league title. Porto would go on a historical run under Jose Mourinho, winning the league and the Champions League, barely missing out on the treble, losing in the final of the Portuguese Cup. While nearby in Spain, the season would go by quietly for Barca, with no trophies for the club. So we could safely say that year Deco could have won it, due to his abilities to help Porto to a historic Champions League title. Also add in the 29 assists in one season, which is very impressive. I think the margins should have been tighter maybe. If in 2004 it was dominated, then in 2005 it would be a landslide. This time Dino would prevail, winning with 33 people putting him first, in front of Frank Lampard with 6 votes for first place, and Steven Gerrard with 8 votes closing out the podium. The Liverpool legend was significantly lower in other categories, so that is the reason for him being third even if he does have more votes. Ronaldinho would see 13 goals and 17 assists to his name, but Lampard would have a great season, especially considering he was a midfielder. 19 goals and 22 assists, with Stevie G seeing out a very modest year stats-wise, 13 goals and 6 assists. He would be one of Liverpool's top scorers. But as for club success, they would have one incredible night in Istanbul winning the CL, coming back from 3-0 down. But that was the only notable achievement. Chelsea would have a much more prolific season, winning the Premier League and the League Cup, failing in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Barcelona would only manage the La Liga, not being able to reach the quarterfinals in the CL. Now having said that, again, I'm led to believe that there is a chance Lampard deserved it more, not that Ronaldinho robbed him or anything. It's all subjective and I'm kinda using an irregular way of considering it, since I'm not using the actual parameters that they voted on. But Lampard had a great season, and I think he might have deserved it a bit more. In 2006, the Ballon d'Or would see an Italian lockout for the first 2 positions, Cannavaro taking first place in front of his teammate Buffon, with Thierry Henry finishing third. The margin for second and third was very tight, 3 points separating the two, but Gigi managed to finish in front despite having less votes. Now obviously being a defender and a goalkeeper, we can't consider offensive stats like goals or assists, so we'll go directly to their club success. Funnily enough, Juve would win the league, however they would see themselves relegated to 20th due to the Calciopoli scandal, making the quarterfinals in both the CL and the Coppa Italia, failing to go further. During this season, Buffon conceded only 21 goals in 24 games, keeping 8 clean sheets. But the highlights for both of them would come in the 2006 World Cup, as they took home a winner's medal, Cannavaro leading them as their captain, both of them playing all the available minutes. On the flip side, TT made sure everyone remembered his name, scoring 33 times and serving 9 assists during the year. Arsenal would lose out in the final of the CL to Barcelona, going trophyless in the season, finishing 4th in the league. So I think despite everything, the first place was the right call for Cannavaro. Leading your country to a World Cup certainly helps, as we will see in the future. Now, for the winners of the 2007 campaign, we would see some familiar names appear on the top 2 steps, but not win it, as Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi respectively in 2nd and 3rd would make their first appearances among the world's best, but the winner would be a mighty Kaká, who almost doubled Ronaldo's 277 points. 3rd place Messi would be close behind with 266 points. In that season, Kaká would serve 11 and score 18, winning the Champions League with Milan. He was the team's top scorer, and even if the league title went in a disappointing fashion as they only finished 4th, he still showed displays of class and ability throughout the year. CR7 would finally start to claim the world stage. He played more than 4,000 minutes throughout the season and contributed in 37 goals, scoring more than 20 himself. They won the league, but crashed out of all the other major competitions. The closest they got was a 2nd place finish in the FA Cup, with Kaká's Milan defeating them in the semis of the CL, the Brazilian scoring 3 times across 2 games, while Ronaldo only managed 1. Now if the first 2 were impressive, Messi's number would seem honestly subpar, 17 goals and 3 assists during the year, a fracture to his metatarsal keeping him out for a good chunk of the season. We lost the Copa America final against Brazil, though Kaká hadn't been called up for the tournament, as Barcelona finished second in La Liga and won the Supercopa de España. So I think it's pretty safe to say that first and second could have gone either way. In 2008, we will finally have the first win for one of the players that will go on to define the modern era, as Cristiano Ronaldo took home the award, leaving second place Messi in the dust, with the final entry being the Spanish goal machine Fernando Torres. Ronaldo would score goals for fun, having more contributions than games played, a staggering 49 to 50. He would celebrate the ball hitting the back of the net 42 times. The Red Devils would win the Champions League, the Community Shield and the league title, missing out on the treble due to a defeat to Portsmouth. However, CR7 would have an underwhelming Euro campaign, as the Portuguese team got knocked out in the quarterfinals. The player behind him, Lionel Messi, would dish out 16 goals and 16 assists, with Barcelona not winning anything that year, getting knocked out in the semi-finals of the CL by Man United and finishing third in La Liga. So not the most incredible of seasons for Messi. Whilst for Fernando Torres, wearing the red jersey of Liverpool, he would score 33 times with 5 assists. But it shaped up to be a pretty uneventful season for the mighty Spanish striker, knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions League. The Reds wouldn't win anything, actually finishing pretty far away from the top spot in all competitions. But Torres would see some glory in the summer, winning the Euro 2008 with a Spanish camiseta. So we can safely say that this year was in the bank. Ronaldo had a dominant season, annihilating all competition. But in 2009, it would be Messi's turn to dwarf Ronaldo, a 240-point gap between the two, with Xavi never really in the race. During the year, he would see 38 goals and 19 assists in an incredibly strong Barcelona team, which would then achieve the treble, winning La Liga, Copa del Rey and Champions League. Ronaldo wouldn't even be able to reach that stat line, managing only 38 goal contributions with 26 goals, losing to Barcelona in the Champions League final. However, they did win several other trophies: the Premier League, the League Cup, the Community Shield and the Club World Cup, all trophies that Sir Alex's team achieved during the year. Xavi was of course part of that treble-winning team, and he managed 10 goals and 31 assists during the season. There's an argument that Xavi could have been second. Overall, 100% deserved from Messi. For the first winner of the 2010s, it would be a repeat for Messi, as he finished in front of his Barcelona teammates Xavi and Iniesta, after a season that again saw them win 4 trophies, including the La Liga and the FIFA Club World Cup. Now I do admit that this top 3 is most likely influenced by the treble they won the year before, so take this with a grain of salt. However, in a season which saw Messi score 46 times, assisting a further 12 more, I think it's pretty safe to say they would have had a good chance of winning it, even if not for the fantastic year in 2009. If we compare, Ronaldo managed 33 goals and 10 assists, but he did not finish on the podium. However, an early exit from Argentina in the 2010 World Cup meant that it stained Messi's stellar year. Xavi managed 7 goals and 10 assists, serving an incredible 16 in La Liga, and he went all the way with Spain, winning the World Cup, together with Iniesta, who despite his 1 goal and 9 assists, proved vital in Barca's claim to make the title stay at the Camp Nou, putting in some impressive defensive performances. He also scored the vital goal to give Spain their first World Cup win ever, in the final against the Netherlands. So for me, even if Argentina didn't really go that far in the tournament, Messi's stats were still incredible and deserving of his second Ballon d'Or win. In 2011, we saw the return, but not as the winner, of Cristiano Ronaldo. His season only good enough to put him second in front of Xavi, but behind his eternal rival Leo Messi, the 3rd time in a row for him, doubling CR7's percentages. The Argentine magician came off what was frankly an absurd year. In 55 games, he scored 53 times and assisted 27, 80 total contributions in 1 year. Ronaldo would show to not be afraid of the challenge, scoring 53 times as well, but only managing 18 assists, which doesn't do Xavi any justice as he only had 5 goals and 15 assists, but we are lucky that football is not only made of stats, as his defensive work rate and leadership helped Barcelona to another Champions League win, wearing the captain's armband in the final, alongside the La Liga title and a Spanish Super Cup. This Barcelona team has been considered the greatest team ever, The only other roster that spoiled their party for a back-to-back treble was Real Madrid, as they beat them in the final of the Copa del Rey. But other than that, not much happened for the Portuguese superstar. So, for the incredible numbers he put and also his team's success, I can say that this Ballon d'Or was well deserved, even if he did have a very underwhelming Copa America, as Argentina failed to get to the semi-finals. For the 2012 season, we will have a 4-time winner in Messi, and I have to say that this is one of the most absurd years statistically I've ever seen. He would claim his crown in front of Cristiano Ronaldo once again, and his teammate Andres Iniesta. But for this one, let's start from the bottom. Iniesta would get himself 8 goals and 12 assists, again contributing defensively to Barcelona's chances in several of the major tournaments. In front of him, Cristiano Ronaldo would show all his hunger for the goal, scoring 60 times and assisting 15. Imagine playing in La Liga those years. I went to pull the top goal scorer table for that season. The player who came in third was Radamel Falcao, with 24 goals, behind Ronaldo's 46 and Messi's 50. Yes, that year Lionel Messi managed 73 goals and 32 assists. Can you even fathom that? More than 100 goal contributions in a year. Not a calendar year, but a season of football. He went absolutely ballistic. As for trophies, despite Messi's sheer power, Barca couldn't win any of the major tournaments, settling for the Copa del Rey, the Spanish Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Club World Cup, with Real Madrid only managing to win the league, getting knocked out in the semis of the CL. So again, nothing to say against Messi for this one, just for the stats alone. Another year, another winner. That was very much the vibe in 2013, as Cristiano Ronaldo won his second Ballon d'Or, barely pushing out Messi, only 3% more than the man from Rosario, interrupting his streak of 4 awards in a row. He would score more than 50 goals for the third year, netting 55, an average of 1 goal per game, with 13 more assists. His counterpart, Go, a few better than him, seeing his name on the scoreboard 60 times, including a gargantuan 46 in La Liga, with 17 assists, with Franck Ribéry finishing in third, scoring 11 and assisting 23. Now this is probably one that carried over from last season, because Real Madrid had a very mediocre year, winning only the Supercopa de España, while Barca won the league. But if there was somebody that deserved it, maybe it was Ribéry after all. The midfielder won every tournament in which they participated, winning the Bundesliga, the DFB Pokal, the Super Cup, and the Champions League, completing an incredible quadruple. So yeah, I see the argument behind the fact that Ribéry should have won it. Ronaldo would make it back-to-back in 2014 as well, this time dominating the awards, 22% winning margin, in front of Messi, with the Argentine barely edging out Manuel Neuer for second place, 0.04% the gap between them. Ronaldo would score 51 times, serving his teammates 17. Most notable were his 17 goals that helped Real Madrid win the Champions League. Messi would only manage 41 with an additional 14 assists, a subpar season, with a quarterfinals exit in the CL. Neuer would become the first keeper since Buffon in 2006 to make it onto the podium, partially thanks to his 25 clean sheets throughout the season, but largely due to his contribution in Germany's 4th World Cup title. Real Madrid would lift their historic La Decima against eternal rivals Atletico Madrid, completing the double winning the Copa del Rey. Barcelona would only lift the Supercopa de España as their piece of silverware. However, Messi's ability to bring Argentina all the way in the World Cup as the captain was seen favourably. The Argentine magician scoring 4 goals, just losing out to Neuer in the final. But this did not stop him from winning the tournament's Golden Ball as its best player. So yeah, I think pretty easy here. Ronaldo's huge contribution in Real's La Decima and also the amount of goals he scored merits this win, even though Portugal came apart in the group stages of the World Cup. Just consider, he played 11 games in the CL and scored in 10 of them. On 6 occasions, he scored more than once. Sorry guys, looks like I have to break things up a bit. I was hoping to get it all done in one video, but things will take a while still, so I'll cut it off here, but stay tuned for part 2.